Well, justice and achieving justice is difficult. It takes a lot of work, it takes engagement, it takes strategy, it takes time to think through and to listen to what people want, especially those who are victimized by and have been victimized by violence. So yes, there are possibilities, there are limits to what courts can do. Courts have to work alongside political actors, political players, to deal with the political nature of violence. And so if I were to come up with some suggestions, there would be three levels of suggestions that I would propose. One is concerned with collaborative structural reform. And certainly in my piece I talk about this. The nature of structural reform is critical. It's critical for the perception of justice by others of the court, but it's also critical in actually achieving the things that the court claims that it does. Universal jurisdiction is critical. Taking seriously the court's triggers in relation to the political and the UN Security Council and the uneven relations of power and self-interest that exist there. The questions of the selectivity of cases, not just in Africa, elsewhere, and not just a performative act of engagement with these other regions, but actually attempts to address political violence in these contexts. A defense, ensuring that the defense is structurally recognized at the ICC. Things like delinking victim status from case proceedings, taking seriously the kinds of crimes that the court can adjudicate. These are structural issues for long-term rethinking, for making the court better, but also for thinking about the addressing violence in our world. The second level has to do with regional cooperation. It has to do with ensuring that when we talk about complementarity, it's not simply supporting the ICC and its aims, but also thinking about justice in these localities, what these regions need, what those who have been victimized by violence need. It's a negotiation. And this is where the court can listen, actually, and think about how they can also serve the interests of regions that are, on an everyday level, struggling and dealing with these conditions of violence. Now, the third level, I would say, is concerned with the development of policy papers. This is achievable in the short term, and the next prosecutor certainly can engage and make a mark in clarifying certain positions of the court by way of policy papers. So there was a missed opportunity, I feel, in the earlier administration, the first administration, around the meaning of the interest of justice. I think the next prosecutor could revisit that question and further clarify the nature of the political and what justice actually means for those who have been victimized by violence. There could be position papers on sequencing, and especially in relation to working with regions on sequencing. So when arrest warrants are released, when parties are in the midst of peace talks, these are questions that need to be dealt with full on. Other questions that could be clarified have to do with the right to victim participation and delinking case victims from the prosecution and the extent to which perpetrators are found guilty or innocent. That's a structural issue that needs to be addressed. And so, yes, there are possibilities for change. Some of them will take much longer. Others can be dealt with in the immediate short-term period with the new prosecutor. But I'll end by just saying that at a time when we're hearing loud and clear that Black Lives Matter, it is important that international justice institutions engage collaboratively to produce the type of reform that is necessary so that regions and localities can also engage effectively, rebuild judiciaries, put in place the mechanisms so that violence doesn't happen. And this has to happen, but it means that we need political mechanisms have to be refigured, and courts have to recognize the nature of the political. It's also important that we reckon with the limitations of legality in some of these contexts. And I think that it's important that the court should reckon with the nature of the political that also produces these conditions of violence. And so having a dual commitment to regional cooperation as well as the nature of the political is important, it's critical. And it's only through really taking on many of the earlier points as well as this point that we can see the eradication of global violence writ large.